So your flight was canceled. Now what? Here's how to get a refund on that canceled flight. Maybe you're seeking a cash refund, or maybe the airline is trying to make you think that you can't get the refund, but instead have to accept a voucher towards a future flight. I'll tell you what you need to know to make sure you get the money back in the form you want it. Now, canceled flights can happen for any reason. Maybe the airline canceled the flight due to lack of demand. Maybe there was a storm coming in and you really can't take off. For those reasons and many more like it, you are entitled to a refund. Now, the short answer is you are always entitled to a refund if the airline cancels your flight, no matter the fare class, no matter the reason why, as long as you don't accept their offer to be rebooked on a different flight. However, many airlines like to obscure this fact, and it can be really tricky to know how and why and when you can really get a refund. Now, before we progress on, I want to make clear that there are different rules for international versus domestic flight. For the purposes of this video, I'm talking about US domestic flights only. There's typically two things that an airline might do if they cancel your flight. First, they might just rebook you on a different flight. So they cancel your Friday night flight and they put a Saturday night flight instead. Another thing the airline might do is try to make you take a flight voucher. This is a credit for the same value you paid for that first flight towards a future flight. That can be annoying if the future flight you want to take is more expensive, or you're just saddled with a voucher for an airline that you're pretty mad at because they canceled your flight. Now, airlines really want you to take that voucher. They want to keep the money. They want to force you on a different flight with them or force you to take that voucher. Some will even offer you bonus rewards for taking the voucher. In fact, American Airlines has been known in the past to offer 20% bonuses on the value of the voucher just to take that over cash back. Now, that can be enticing if you frequently fly American Airlines because then you get that bonus 20%. However, for most people, having $200 in cash is better than having $200 or even $240 in the form of an American Airlines voucher. Cash is almost always more valuable than the voucher on hand. If you choose to accept the cash offer, then you can do a few things with it. You can just simply rebook on a different airline for a similar flight date and time, or you can choose to just pocket the money and cancel your trip completely. So how do you actually get your money back? If you're at the airport, then it can be as simple as walking up to the customer service desk. If you're not at the airport, you have a few options. You can call, you can go online. Depending on the airline, there might be a form for you to fill out or someone that you can chat with online or a chat bot that you can chat with online. I've even had success getting in contact with the airline via social media. I've direct messaged them on Twitter. Now, one word of warning is for the folks out there who booked through a travel agency. This can be an online travel agency like TripAdvisor, Expedia, or Orbitz. It might be your corporate booking portal or a real human travel agent. When you book through a travel agency, there's that middleman you have to go to, so I recommend that you get in touch with them to figure out the best way to get your money back. But it's for that middleman reason that I typically avoid using travel agencies and instead prefer to just book direct. So I told you about canceled flights, but what if your flight is simply delayed? In fact, in the first 4 months of 2022, just 4% of flights were canceled outright. In that same period, 20% of flights were delayed. Now, according to current Department of Transportation rules, you are entitled to a refund if your flight is significantly delayed or the airline has significantly changed the schedule. The problem with this? No one has actually defined what significantly really means, and it's not exactly in the airline's favor to be generous with their interpretation of that. Basically, it's up to the airline to decide what significantly means. But the Department of Transportation has actually proposed some rules where they decide what significantly means, not the airline. Earlier this summer, the Department of Transportation proposed that a flight would be considered significantly delayed if it's been delayed for 3 hours or more for domestic flights or 6 hours or more for international flights. Again, we are just in the proposed rules phase, so this hasn't gone into effect, but it's something that could happen soon. Now, I will say that there are some airlines that are actually generous if your flight is delayed. Some might put you in a hotel room for the extra night, some might give you meal vouchers to use at the airport. That said, policies can vary not just by airline, but they can vary by route and even by the person who's working at the customer service desk. My best advice is that when you ask nicely and you'll likely get the best voucher out of it. Now, I've told you how to get your money back if your flight is canceled. I've told you what to do if your flight is delayed. But what about those other expenses you may have incurred because of the disruptions to your flight? I'm talking a hotel that you're no longer able to stay in, or something like a cruise reservation where you actually missed the cruise departure time. What do you do about that? You have some options, but it's best if you have trip insurance. Now, I have a whole other video on trip insurance, so I'm not going to dive into it too deep here, but I'll sort of give you the nutshell answer. And that is, if your flight was canceled for a covered reason, then you can get the money back for those other travel expenses that you're no longer able to go on. The problem with that is that there are many different definitions of what a covered reason is, and they can vary from policy to policy. The best way to ensure that your reason is covered is to have cancel for any reason policy, and that is exactly what it sounds like. You can cancel for any reason, and the trip insurer will give you your money back either in full or sometimes in part, depending on the policy. Other less comprehensive forms of travel insurance might also be able to come to your rescue. Just understand what is and isn't covered. For example, it's pretty common for travel insurance policies to only consider a flight delayed to be one that's been delayed by 12 hours or more. So read the fine print. The good news, you might not even need to pay for a travel insurance policy. Many premium credit cards actually offer travel insurance as a benefit for trips paid for on that card. Now, many of these cards have annual fees, but often the annual fee is actually far less than what you would otherwise pay for travel insurance anyway. Again, though, I want you to understand the terms. For example, Chase only has 2 reasons why they'll cover you for a canceled or disrupted flight. That is in the event of severe weather or an organized strike disrupting public transportation. Again, read the terms so you know what is and isn't covered. I've told you how to get a refund for your flight. I've told you what to do if your flight is delayed and how you might be able to get money back for other expenses like that hotel room you paid for. My best advice is to make sure you have trip insurance. Even if you don't have trip insurance, it doesn't hurt to ask. And again, when you do ask, be sure you ask nicely. I'm Sally French, a travel writer for NerdWallet. I'm gonna be honest, I fly so much that if I was offered a 20% bonus on a voucher, I would take it. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe.